Welcome. Let's talk about urban planning. Today we explore the world of the Iranian feminist movement known as Woman, Life, Freedom. This movement has been met with brutal crackdowns from the Iranian government, but it has also captured the attention of the world through social media. And to let us know more about the movement, I invited Asma Mehan from Texas Tech University in the United States. Asma will let us know how this movement is using digital art, graffiti, protests to create a physical and virtual space for women's voices to be heard. We will also discuss the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead for this movement and how it can inspire other feminist movements around the world. I'm Rodrigo Silva. Let's talk about urban planning. Asma, welcome to our episode.
Thank you so much for your kind invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Perfect. Let us know then, Asma, why you felt the need, the relevance to study this movement in particular. And also, let us know a bit about the movement for context.
So, as you mentioned before, the main inspiration for starting this research is inspired by the recent Woman, Life, Freedom movement, or what we call in Persian in Farsi, Zan Zendegi Azadi movement. So inspiring from this recent movement, I asked different line of question. For example, how this specific movement focused on the intersection of digital activism and how it has been known as the feminist movement within Iran, as a counter-feminist movement in Iran. And I think also it's important to add a little bit about the Iranian context. I think it's important to talk more about the Iranian context specifically because it's a place where traditional forms of protest are often, as you mentioned also before, severely restricted. So I think this specific topic, the topic of digital activism and feminist movement within Iran, but also within this case study of the recent Woman, Life, Freedom movement, gains importance as it highlights how the specific digital platforms, the emerging digital platforms, have become crucial spaces for marginalized groups, for example, the case of women in repressive societies, to voice their concerns, organize movements, and also foster the community solidarity. Mm-hmm. So the main aim for this research was for me to explore the digital feminist placemaking in the context of this specific movement. And this specific research and study offers a unique lens to understand the evolving dynamics of social movements in the digital age. So I think it's important to underscore and highlight and emphasize the transformative potential of these digital spaces in empowering women, for example, for this specific case. And also it draws attention to the broader implication of digital activism for reshaping public discourse, but also contributing to the societal change. And I think the specific research the main idea was how these digital tools are utilized in resource-limited setting to create the impactful social movements. And also at the end, I had this transition toward the global shift towards the new forms of resistance and community building in the digital era, which is, I think it's an important emerging topics in our scholarship.
Let's follow up on that and explore a bit before you share the most important conclusions of your study. So what was specifically missing out there in the research that prompted you to write about Woman, Life, Freedom?
So I think the published paper that we are discussing about and my research sought to bridge this significant gap in understanding the role of digital spaces as alternative public spheres, especially in environments where traditional activism is limited or not allowed. So I was particularly interested in exploring how this digital art, digital graffiti, social media, online resources, and online stories help to forge digital feminist spaces in a society where women's voices are often limited. So This specific study delved into the complexities of digital feminist placemaking and looking at how these virtual environments support community, solidarity, and resistance among women, by women. And by focusing on a specific case of Iran, a context which I think also not widely been studied, my research aimed to provide unique insights into how women in restrictive societies creatively use digital tools in our era for articulating their demands, sharing experiences, and also driving social change.
Promising. So let us know the most important, most relevant findings of your study.
So I think key findings of this study include the innovative use of digital art, as I mentioned, through the different case studies in this research, and social media for feminist activism, and how it facilitates through the women inside the country, but also through the diaspora and international organization outside the country, facilitating the spread of feminist narratives. And also digital placemaking, the keyword that I use as a key concept in this research. I think it's important to mention and highlight about this specific concept, which is with women creating virtual spaces that embody their hopes, their challenges, and their struggles, acting as alternative public spheres for feminist expression. And also, this study emphasized the digital platform's role in building international solidarity for this specific case of women life freedom movement in Iran, which helped to connect Iranian women's issues to global feminist movement. I think this domino effect that happened is really important and interesting to study because it demonstrated women's adaptability and resilience in using digital tools to challenge patriarchal structures, but also highlighting digital activism and these forms of the new forms of global solidarity through these platforms.
So you highlight the innovative use of digital art and feminism activism, either internal or in the diaspora, digital placemaking, and digital platforms in building international solidarity. And you write in your article, I would like to follow up on this, that there are lessons to be learned by these 3 points that you highlighted, lessons to be learned either by policymakers and by citizens in general. So let us know more about those.
I think the findings of this study have significant implication for both public policies and governments, but also for individuals. So in terms of and focusing on public policies, I think this research underscores the needs for governments and policymakers to recognize and support digital platforms as legitimate spaces for civic engagement and activism. And also, I think this calls for this specific study was a call for action for the incorporation of digital feminist perspectives in policymaking, ensuring that the voices and experiences of women are reflected in decisions that affect their lives. And also, I would like to highlight again the emphasis for the critical need to safeguard digital rights and digital freedoms, which is, I think, also essential for this emerging forms of activism in our era. And focusing on individual perspective, I think the specific research encourages women to recognize and leverage digital platform as powerful tools for advocacy and community building. And also it has the potential to influence individual choices by raising awareness about the challenges faced by women in restrictive societies, which fosters the global sense of empathy and solidarity about this. So I think in general, the research serves as a catalyst for individuals to not only understand, but actively participate in digital movements, contributing to a more equitable and inclusive digital sphere.
Let's switch to academia now. You write in your article, potential venues for future research, focusing more comparative studies, long-term studies over time. So what's ahead of us now, academically speaking?
I think that's a really interesting question. And I would like also to explore the future research and the different several avenues for future inquiry. So one of the key areas for future research is the exploration of digital feminist placemaking in different socio-political contexts. So investigating how women in other regions and other parts of the world utilize digital platforms for activism could provide comparative insights and comparative perspective to understand the digital feminist global impact. So the specific focus was in the context of Iran and Middle East. So I would like to see how it can be translated in Europe, in different parts of Asia, in Australia, in Africa. I think that's an important area for the future research. Another area for future study is the long-term effects of digital feminist activism on societal norms and gender dynamics. Mm-hmm. So it's important to understand that the sustainability of these movements and evolution of these movements through the time and how it can be studied through the time. So focusing on limitation, also it's important to note that the specific study primarily focused on the Iranian context and on the recent woman life freedom movement as a case study, which may not fully represent the diverse experiences and strategies of digital feminist activism globally. And also I would like to add that the research relied on social media and online and different forms of online narratives, but also the digital art, digital graffiti, which may not fully represent the offline impacts and grassroots movements associated with digital feminism. So I think definitely further research could address these limitations by incorporating a more diverse range of geographical contexts and also exploring the interplay between online activism and also offline social changes.
Mm-hmm. Many venues still ahead to explore this topic. Asma, if you had to sum up this episode, the topic you've been discussed in 1 or 2 sentences, what would it be?
So I think the most important takeaway from this talk is the transformative power of digital platforms to amplify marginalized voices and foster social change. And also the key message here is that digital activism is not just a tool, but a critical space for insurgency and community building, and especially in the context where traditional forms of protests are limited and banned. And also this research is a call to action for all to recognize, acknowledge, and support digital feminist movement as a legitimate and powerful forces for societal transformation. And also, I hope that this study serves as an inspiration, showing that change is possible and is often begins with a single voice amplified through the power of digital connectivity.
Great episode, Asma. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you.
This podcast is powered by Cogitatu Press. You can listen to this episode on the Let's Talk About Urban Planning website, on Cogitatu Press YouTube channel, and whatever you get your podcast.